Good evening and welcome to the September 11, 2012 regular scheduled meeting of the Rossmoor Community Services District. Ms. Steering, could we have the roll call?
Director Casey?
Here.
Director Rips?
Here.
President Coletta?
Here. We have an excused absence this evening for Director Maynard. We are expecting Mr. Kalin momentarily, but we'll go ahead and commence our meeting. Would you please join us as we pledge our allegiance to the flag? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would you please remain standing for just a moment? Tonight is the anniversary of September 11, 2001, and just 10 years ago, we had that tragic moment. I think it would be appropriate for us to just bow our heads and recognize the people who were no longer with us because of that incident. Thank you. We have no presentations this evening, and to my knowledge, no additions to the agenda. Is that correct, Mr. Tabawada?
Sure.
Okay. And then we'll move to public forum, and this is where the community can come forward, state their name, and address the board on matters that are within our areas of responsibility, but mind you that we're not able to take action. But we can, at the end of the meeting, make it a board member item if we so choose and direct it to the manager for a report on a future event.
Well, I'm here to remind you of what your duties are as directors of the Rossmoor Community Service District, because I don't think you understand what you're supposed to do. Public recreation, you do okay with that. Street lighting, you don't do much with that. Installation and maintenance of median landscaping, okay. Aesthetic trimming of parkway trees, terrible, since I'm giving you a grade. Street sweeping, pretty good. And that's about all. Tree trimming. Okay, those are all the powers that you're supposed to have. Now, Mr. Annisman got to the Sun before I did, because I would have written a nice Rossmoor Gate about it, because I'm the person who does write Rossmoor Gate. Mr. Maynard made some kind of a comment yesterday about it, but there's no reason for you to spend $27,000 to put up signs in Rossmoor Village that only reiterate the signs that are already in Rossmoor Village. If you guys took a look, you'd see that there are 3 signs that say Rossmoor Village. Why in the world would you want to put up 3 more signs? But the fact is, you are not supposed to do that. That kind of construction does not fit within your duties to the Rossmoor Community Service District. So just read Mr. Annisman's letter to the editor. It explains it very clearly.
You have 1 minute left, Ms. Blue.
Well, maybe somebody will give me their 5 minutes or their 3 minutes.
I don't see anyone raising their hand. You have less
Well,
than a
I
minute.
don't see why I can't keep on telling you.
Because you have to honor this
Well,
forum.
you know, it's...
Ma'am, you're talking over me. I've been listening to you.
All right, the other thing that you're doing is you have hired a manager as an independent contractor. That is against the law. We have always had a manager that has been a paid employee. Mr. Tabawada is an employee. He is not an independent contractor. And as a result, you have left the district open to possible IRS penalties So I think you should look into it. Maybe you don't want to hear that, but I have other things, and I will put it in a Rossmoor gate. It's really a shame you don't want to know what's wrong with your district. And the fact is that the grand jury gave us a DFF in 3 categories. All right.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Dorothy Fitzgerald. I'm a Rossmoor resident, and I have come this evening. I'd like to take this opportunity to make others who may be watching this, and of course the people who are here, about the upcoming crime awareness meeting, which is going to be here at Rush Park next Monday, September 7th.
I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing. In the back, can you guys just hold your conversation, please? I'm sorry. You can continue, I just couldn't hear you, I'm sorry.
Okay, I thought perhaps I wasn't using the microphone correctly. I'd like to read to you the email blast that went out from the Rossmoor Homeowners Association's Neighborhood Watch Committee. The Orange County Sheriff's Department Crime Awareness Meeting, September 17th. Investigator David Purser of the Sheriff's Department will be conducting his quarterly crime awareness meeting that evening from 6 to 8 o'clock here at Rush Park. Meeting topics will include recent crime statistics, arrests of interest, crime trends, including distraction burglaries and flocking crews, and crime prevention techniques. We have experienced an increase in residential burglaries. There's more awareness of that now. And this is our opportunity to get information firsthand and to ask any questions we may have of the representatives from the Orange County Sheriff's Department. The Sheriff's Department puts out a quarterly crime report. It is presented here at your meetings also. They are on the RHA website under the Neighborhood Watch Committee. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Ms. Fitzgerald.
Good evening. I'm Erwin Annisman, a resident of Rossmoor. I have 2 items, one of which I brought to you last month regarding the foliage and vines on the signature wall. And I was wondering what the status of that was. And the other item was I was wondering what the status of the tree plantings on the hardscape parkways. That's been around for years now, and I thought that you had something worked out with the county to go forward with that, but as far as I could see, there hasn't been anything done on that. So I'm wondering if you could give us some answers to that. Thank you.
With regard to the vegetation on the wall, I note every day as I travel the community, it has not been addressed by the homeowners that are the source of the vegetation over the signature wall on Los Alamitos Boulevard up through Bradbury, but I'm not aware if the district has made any effort to contact each homeowner, if at all. Has any action taken place, Mr. Dabwater?
Mr. President, members of the board, typically staff does that. It's probably more cost effective for us to go in on 1 or 2 days and simply just peel away all that foliage and dispose of it. Honestly, our maintenance staff has been taxed to death because of people on medical leave and other happenings, and so we've not gotten to it, but it's not something that is critical at this moment, and we'll get to it as soon as time and staff hours permit. The other issue was the
tree plantings on
tree
the
planting.
areas.
We finally got a report back from the county yesterday. I'll report back to the board as soon as, and so I'll have a full report back for you the next time that we meet, or either on your weekly update, but we will give you that information shortly.
Okay, thank you for that update. All right, seeing no other persons coming forward, we'll move with reports to the board. Would you like to, I'm sorry, sir?
excuse me, Dave Burgess. I'll try to keep it short and sweet. Looking at the budget for this year, last year's revenues were $1,060,000. The budget was about $1,100,000-ish for last fiscal year. I'm sure we had probably 95% of the revenues intaken before the new budget was created, and the budget now has $1,243,000. One of the big upticks, of course, the $70,000 I believe that the state owes us, but there's still another $100,000 in the revenues. I don't see it coming from property taxes. There may be some minimal increases in the rush rental, et cetera, but it's a $110,000 miss that I think about 80% of it's in the property taxes. I don't see us collecting $80,000 to $100,000 more in property taxes this year. I have many questions on the P&L, and there's never any discussion of the actuals versus estimates on a monthly basis. I realize that July is kind of an anomaly where things drop in. It's only 1 month into the fiscal year. But the glaring issues to me is, number one, we got a $40,000 budget for legal. Whether it's on a cash or accrual basis, I'm not sure, but we spent $11,000 on the P&L in July. Doesn't leave us much money for the rest of the year with all the issues that we have. And I'm not sure whether on a cash basis, 100% for profit and loss statements, or a mixture of cash and accrual, but there needs to be more visibility and discussion on the financials on a monthly basis. Landscaping, they're still doing a blow and go on Wednesdays. I don't think we need 45 services a year, maybe weekly during the summer, but during the winter. There's obviously services that are not performing. Don't know if there's any discussions with that landscaping company. There should be. And last month, in the agenda or the minutes from last meeting, saying I was critical of the board, I'm just providing the comments. I'm critical of the service and the money that we spend, $80,000 a year, and we're not getting the service. I went for a walk this morning, excuse me, I got the hiccups. Went for a walk this morning. Every time they water, the water runs into the sandbox. Big deal? Not really, but there's probably water there right now. Kids are out there playing. It's compacting the soil. The contract says they rototill it quarterly. I think the last time was 4 or 5 months ago. They should just do it. And I could go on. I'm sure you've seen my emails.
I have, sir.
They're not, maybe I have too much time on my hands, but someone needs to be paying attention to the P&L that understands the P&L. I'm not saying the 5 of you and Henry and the accountant do or don't. I'm not making an opinion. The end result is there's not enough detailed analysis of it and reconciling the numbers. The comments at the end of the P&Ls for July, are they applicable? Excuse me. Yes. Do they hit the big numbers? No. You know, if you just go down the right column and we've spent, 30% of our budget in 1/12 the time, whether it's an accrual or a timing issue, okay, I understand that. But those are the types of items that should be discussed, understood, and acted on. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Since you gave Mr. Burgess some extra time, I think you should give me...
I was not giving him extra time. I was making note
Well,
of
I
his
didn't
time.
speak for more than 3 minutes.
Ma'am, listen.
Listen,
I
you listen
admonish-
to me. You're my director. I'm not yours.
Ma'am.
And 3 minutes is not a sufficient time for any citizen to come up here and tell you something.
Ma'am, you're
Okay?
out of order.
I want you to know
out of order, ma'am.
that there are consequences
Ma'am,
for
you-
treating an employee as an independent contractor, and you should get in touch with your
Ma'am,
attorney.
you're over the
The
time
other thing
allotted.
is- the
With all
other
due
thing
respect,
is-
I've given you 2 polite
Look,
admonitions.
you talk
You
about
wanna have special favor
transparency.
over
You talk
everyone.
about transparency. And you don't want anybody to hear.
On to the next order of business.
Okay, Mr. Tomboata, let's go to the reports to the board.
Mr. President, members of the board,
Ma'am, I'm asking you to please refrain from interrupting the meeting now.
You're interrupting the meeting. I think you should make your public forum give everybody at least 5 minutes.
Well, we're not here to visit that policy right now. So at this point in time, we're going to abide by the rules we have. There's a remedy. You can write a memorandum. We can put it on the agenda for another meeting. And we can discuss it, giving everybody notice. But at this point in time, we're not going to do it because you decided tonight you think it's in the best interest of the community. That's not how we do things. So let's move on, Mr. Taboada, to reports to the board, please.
Mr. President, members of the board, this is a report on governance. I'm going to cover several topics and just generally give you an update on where we are with those topics that we report generally at a board meeting. First, regarding the Attorney General opinion that was obtained by the district. As you know, the opinion on contracting for police services gives the district the option to enter into a contract with the Orange County Sheriff's Department for dedicated service. An obstacle in this regard has been a county council opinion to the contrary, and county council has now informed general counsel that this is no longer the case. Therefore, the district has met with Sheriff Hutchins and members of her staff to begin the process for development of a cost of services proposal from the department, and that proposal should be available to the district in about a month. With regard to the Public Records Act request for financial data to the county, we've submitted that, as you know, and have obtained a majority of the data that was requested. And it was requested in order to validate the fact that Rossmoor is a donor community and is not a drain on the county. Harvey Rose Company is analyzing that data, and once we have that analysis, then we'll be able to make a case to the county that there are sufficient funds left over from the county's coffers that could pay for additional services to this community. With regard to enforcement of the district's tree policy, as previously reported, Orange County Public Works had taken a pretty aggressive approach for removal of parkway trees deemed to be a safety hazard. The county, through its county council, had opined that the powers granted to the district for tree removal did not include a final decision on trees classified as posing a safety hazard by the county's arborists. The district had previously asked for documentation which support this contention. A copy of December 16th memorandum is attached to your agenda, which is from County Council back in 1996, asserting that the county's authority over removal of trees is consistent with the idea that hazardous issues still remain within the domain of the county. The memorandum does cite, though, a legal option for the district to consider, which is that it could enter into an agreement with the county where the district would indemnify and hold the county harmless from any liability incurred as a result of the district assuming this responsibility. General counsel is currently reviewing this legal aspect of this issue and will advise the board accordingly when his research is completed. Mr. President, members of the board, that's my update on governance.
Thank you.
Henry, I've got a question on the Attorney General opinion. We get this cost of services proposal from the Sheriff's Department. How will we be paying for that? Will there be monies that will be transferred from the county over to us? How is that calculated? How will we know how that's all going to pan out?
Director Kaler, obviously the first thing that you need to know is how much is the county currently expending on police services to the community of Rossmoor? And then secondly, how much would that number differ from a cost proposal to provide dedicated services?
Right.
And the reason for the Public Records Act request was to validate the fact that this community sends more money to the county than it gets back in services. Our proposal to the county then would be, we want you to transfer those funds that you currently use to pay for police services in Rossmoor back to the district so that the district can then contract directly with the sheriff. So it would be an exchange of funds, basically.
Correct.
Hopefully it would be a wash, and that's really what you're looking for. If it isn't, then the board would need to decide how to handle whether it was less or more than that. But we can't begin to enter into a discussion with the county until we know for certain, one, how much is the sheriff spending now? What is it proposed to spend on a contract basis? And third, how much of a reserve is there basically from the community of Rossmoor back to the county to draw upon for the payment or the exchange of services, exchange of monies for those services?
Right, yeah, so then currently now we're just waiting for some additional analysis from the data that the county is providing us from the public records request?
No, sir. The county sheriff is independently determining its cost of service currently to Rossmoor, and from that developing a proposal for a direct contract with Rossmoor. They may use the services of the county to get that information, but it's not necessarily the same information that we obtained from the Public Records Act request. It could be, but there's no certainty.
Okay, so do we know yet how much the county is spending for police services on the community of Rossmoor, or are we still waiting on that piece? It seems like there's two pieces of information that we need. One is this separate.
The figure that we have for certain was provided as a part of the comprehensive financial analysis that was done for the application for incorporation. And at that time, the figure was $1,194,000.
What year was that?
That would be the number was from 2006 and was used for the 2008 CFA. It's likely could be more than that, could be less than that. And how could that be? Well, we've examined the sheriff's budget for the last 4 fiscal years, and the sheriff's department budget has actually decreased over the last 4 years. So you could make an assumption that if their budget has decreased, then the money they're spending for providing those services could also have decreased. But again, until we actually see the numbers and make that compare and contrast, basically, we won't have a firm number until then.
And when do we expect to get that number?
Well, the sheriff said 2 weeks ago that it would take about 6 weeks, so I expect it in about a month.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
I also asked them, though, for a progression of not just what it cost then and what it costs now. I've asked them for a progression year by year so that then we can compare it against their budget and the county's budget year by year. So that takes a little longer for them because they don't account for it by Rossmoor. They have to extrapolate that.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
I have a question on the data that's been received so far by Harvey Rose on the public records request.
Yes, sir.
They're currently analyzing the data, and yet they're missing, additional data that's going to be supplied by the county in the near future, I understand. So based on the nature of the missing data, will they have to reanalyze after they've gone through the activity the first time, or do we know that?
Well, we've received about 95% of what's been requested.
Okay, I knew it was most of it.
And the missing pieces we've been told by the county that they will provide them. So it's just a matter of when we get them and add it into the mix. Some of the data that was in the CFA, though, was not provided by the county. It came from the state and other agencies. So Mr. Fred Brousseau has to go out and secure that information himself, not from the county. So there's still some analysis that is there's final analysis that needs to take place. But for I had a conversation with Mr. Brousseau this afternoon, and he says, I asked him, does the information you've gotten vary differently from the CFA? And he says, not very. It's pretty much on target with that. And that CFA data was the one that's very clearly indicated that we were not a drain, but a donor to the county. So We'll see.
So, yeah, so far it looks like it's going to be right on the money or close to it in terms of this analysis backing up what we've heard in the past.
We've not hit any brick walls.
Excellent. Thank you.
We have a gentleman back there.
We're turning it back on.
No.
Oh, sorry. So I don't know the apparent, well, I guess the reason why we're trying to get our own police force, or at least be able to contract directly with them for his improved service. Is that the general reason for it?
That, I think, is in part correct, not completely the vision. I think the community policing wherein the deputies assigned to the community could be secured to remain longer under a contract city model, if you will, or a contract basis, if you will, where in the contract you can have terms and conditions where, you know, Deputy Smith, Deputy Fitzgerald, Deputy Burgess, because the community has this request, wants these deputies assigned, and that they stay assigned for a minimum of 2 years so that there is the familiarity of community policing. The experience, on occasion, I've noticed, I can't attest to every quarter, every year, but it appears that every 6 months they're rotating deputies through here. So the intimacy, the familiarity with the peculiarities of our streets, the pockets that might have issues, or the streets that are more frequent to provide access more readily for people to commit burglaries.
Continuity.
It's not ingrained in the minds of the deputies that have a shorter stay than those who seem to make this their home.
Okay, I have two comments. Number one, if it was $1.2 million 5 years ago, apples to apples, it's probably $1.5 million today.
I don't know.
Don't know.
Don't know.
And secondly, I really believe that the community ought to be made very, very well aware that we're planning on subcontracting directly, which in essence doubles the budget from $1.2 million to $2.4 million.
I don't know that. It could be, it may not be, I don't know.
Well, it's not 500 if it was $1.2 million 5 years ago.
I don't
It
know.
really requires public knowledge and input on this, not just a board of directors, general manager, legal counsel doing this and then announcing that it's going to proceed.
I don't think anyone is envisioning something like that.
Well, I've seen it before. Thank you.
Well, I don't think you've seen it with this board, sir. But nonetheless, appreciate your comments. Let's move now to the next item, Mr. Tabuada. You're completed with your report to the board, correct?
That's right, sir.
All right, let's go to the consent calendar. Tonight we have minutes of last month and the July revenue and expenditure report. If anyone of the board would like to pull any one of those items, you can.
If nothing.
All right, for those two matters, the numbers are letters E1 and E2. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No one opposed. Motion carries 4 and 1 absentee this evening. Consent calendar is approved. Now we go to public hearings. There's none. Resolutions, there's none. Regular calendar, there's none this evening. General manager items.
I have done, sir.
Board member items.
I have one that I'd like to bring up. During my tenure here, I've noticed, and I've also been to some other meetings, but I'd like to explore a way for us to have some type of sergeant at arms at these meetings. I know it's kind of a hit and miss. Sometimes the sheriff's here, and sometimes there isn't. But I would feel safer if we were to have some type of presence here. So I don't know how we go about doing that, but I'd like to explore that in light of past and potentially future events.
Director Kaler, one of the advantages of having your own contract with the police department is that you would have your chief of police here at every meeting. So that's one way that you can accomplish that. Another way to do that is to ask the current Patrol Bureau commander to assign a deputy to be at your meetings if that's feasible. So we can inquire into that and see if it's possible.
Yeah, I would appreciate you doing that. Okay, starting with the next meeting. I don't know. That would be great.
We'll look into it.
I have no items for tonight.
Nothing this evening.
I would just echo two things, Mr. Tabawada, and you've already addressed them during public forum. For the next meeting, if you could report to the board on the signature wall, and hopefully by then the vegetation has been trimmed back. If the staff isn't available because of limitations, recovery, and/or absenteeism for other matters or other priorities, and perhaps consideration will be given to have West Coast arborists or our landscaper just spend a few hours in just cleaning that up.
Well, President Coletta, one of the reasons, other than the extended absences that we've had, is that we've been dedicating staff resources to watering trees.
No, I know.
Yeah,
Mr. Reynolds has not been replaced. I recognize that. And that's good to say it because the community forgets. Memories are short.
That's something we took on this summer. We've never done that before. We now have taken that on as an additional effort, and it requires staff hours to do that. But with the kind of weird summer that we've had, it's been, I think, very productive to have started that watering program so that we don't lose trees.
No, I don't mean to
No,
diminish that.
I'm just giving context is all.
Sure. Is it feasible to engage one of the contractors?
Oh, absolutely, yes, but that's an additional cost.
What are our choices? Either that or we send letters to the residents and request that they cut it back voluntarily from their side of the property and pull it all back in.
It'd be very difficult to do some of that.
It would be. There are people that are responsible. It's not all. I mean, you drive by, you see the X number of residences that are real nice and trim in their backyards, and others, there's a growth.
We'll address it.
Okay. And lastly, with regards to the report you just received yesterday, if we can get a briefing next month for the community to understand
Absolutely.
the status of the parkways and those designated to have trees. I think there was approximately 21 or so.
We started with 21, yes.
Okay. All right. That's all I have. We have no closed sessions, so a motion to adjourn if there be one.
So motioned.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Meeting adjourned.